I would have given my mother on her wedding day. 1. You are allowed to say no. 2. Years ago, his father beat the language of love out of your husband's back. He will never know how to say it, but his actions prove he loves you. 3. Go with him when he enters your body and goes to that place. Sex is not dirty. 4. No matter how many times his family brings it up, do not have the abortion just because I'm a girl. Lock the relatives out and swallow the key. He will not hate you. 5. Take your journals and paintings across the ocean when you leave. These will remind you who you are when you get lost amid new cities. They will also remind your children you had an entire life before them. 6. When your husbands are off working at the factories, make friends with all the other lonely women in the apartment complex. This loneliness will cut a person in half. You will need each other to stay alive. 7. Your husband and children will take from your plate. We will emotionally and mentally starve you. All of it is wrong. Don't let us convince you that sacrificing yourself is how you must show love. 8. When your mother dies, fly back for the funeral. Money comes and goes. A mother is once in a lifetime. 9. You are allowed to spend a couple dollars on a coffee. I know there was a time when we could not afford it, but we are okay now. Breathe. 10. You can't speak English fluently or operate a computer or cell phone. We did that to you. It is not your fault. You are not any less than the other mothers with their flashy phones and designer clothing. We confined you to the four walls of this home and worked you to the bone. You have not been your own property for decades. 11. There was no rule book for how to be the first woman in your lineage, to raise a family on a strange land by yourself. 12. You are the person I look up to the most. 13. When I am about to shatter, I think of your strength and harden. 14. I think you are a magician. 15. I want to fill the rest of your life with ease. 16. You are the hero of heroes, the god of gods. You split the world into pieces and called them countries, declared ownership on what never belonged to you, and left the rest with nothing. Colonize. My parents never sat us down in the evenings to share stories of their younger days. One was always working, the other too tired. Perhaps being an immigrant does that to you. The cold terrain of the North engulfed them. Their bodies were hard at work, paying in blood and sweat for their citizenship. Perhaps the weight of the new world was too much, and the pain and sorrow of the old was better left buried. I do wish I had unburied it, though. I wish I'd pried their silence apart like a closed envelope. I wish I'd found a small opening at its very edge, pushed a finger inside, and gently torn it open. They had an entire life before me, which I am a stranger to. It would be my greatest regret to see them leave this place before I even got to know them. My voice is the offspring of two countries colliding. What is there to be ashamed of if English and my mother tongue made love? My voice is her father's words and mother's accent. What does it matter if my mouth carries two worlds? Accent. "1790. He takes the newborn girl from his wife, carries her to a neighboring room, cradles her head with his left hand, and gently snaps her neck with his right. 1890. A wet towel to wrap her in, grains of rice and sand in the nose. A mother shares the trick with her daughter-in-law. I had to do it, she says, as did my mother, and her mother before her. 1990. A newspaper article reads, 100 baby girls were found buried behind a doctor's house in a neighboring village. The wife wonders if that's where he took her. She imagines her daughter becoming the soil, fertilizing the roots that feed this country. 1998. Oceans away in a Toronto basement, a doctor performs an illegal abortion on an Indian woman who already has a daughter. One burden is enough, she says. 2006. It's easier than you think, my aunties tell my mother. They know a family who've done it 3 times. They know a clinic. They could get Mama the number. The doctor even prescribes pills that guarantee a boy. They worked for the woman down the street, they say. Now she has 3 sons. 2012. 12 hospitals in the Toronto area refuse to reveal a baby's gender to expecting families until the 30th week of pregnancy. All 12 hospitals are located in areas with high South Asian immigrant populations. Female infanticide, female feticide. Broken English. I think about the way my father pulled the family out of poverty without knowing what a vowel was, and my mother raised 4 children without being able to construct a perfect sentence in English, a discombobulated couple who landed in the new world with hopes that left the bitter taste of rejection in their mouths. No family, no friends, just man and wife. 2 university degrees that meant nothing, 1 mother tongue that was broken now, one swollen belly with a baby inside, a father worrying about jobs and rent, because no matter what, this baby was coming, and they thought to themselves for a split second, was it worth it to put all of our money into the dream of a country that is swallowing us whole? Papa looks at his woman's eyes and sees loneliness living where the iris was, wants to give her a home in a country that looks at her with the word visitor wrapped around its tongue on their wedding day. She left an entire village to be his wife. Now she left an entire country to be a warrior, and when the winter came, they had nothing but the heat of their own bodies to keep the coldness out. Like two brackets, they faced one another to hold the dearest parts of them, their children, close. They turned a suitcase full of clothes into a life and regular paychecks to make sure the children of immigrants wouldn't hate them for being the children of immigrants. They worked too hard, and you can tell by their hands. Their eyes are begging for sleep, but our mouths were begging to be fed, and that is the most artistic thing I have ever seen. It is poetry to the ears that have never heard what passion sounds like, and my mouth is full of likes and ums when I look at their masterpiece, because there are no words in the English language that can articulate that kind of beauty. I can't compact their existence into 26 letters and call it a description. I tried once, but the adjectives needed to describe them don't even exist. So instead I ended up with pages and pages full of words followed by commas and more words and more commas, only to realize that there are some things in the world so infinite they could never use a full stop. So how dare you mock your mother when she opens her mouth and broken English spills out? Don't be ashamed of the fact that she split through countries to be here, so you wouldn't have to cross a shoreline. Her accent is thick like honey. Hold it with your life. It's the only thing she has left of home. Don't you stomp on that richness. Instead, hang it up on the walls of museums next to Dali and Van Gogh. Her life is brilliant and tragic. Kiss the side of her tender cheek. She already knows what it feels like to have an entire nation laugh when she speaks. She is more than our punctuation and language. We might be able to paint pictures and write stories, but she made an entire world for herself. How is that for art? Brown is not a color, it's a way of life, a way to struggle, a way to survive. We have survived so many fires, I can no longer tell if we are alive or simply burning. Children of immigrants know the struggle of being a book opened to a random page and told to understand. Brown girl, you are a poem in a country made entirely of stories. The roots of my parents grow from two different orchards. Their seeds have been planted within me. I was born outside of both of their countries and was left to grow roots of my own. For those of us whose bodies are filled with foreign flowers, we long for the home that was cut out of the picture, a phantom limb we can't stop touching, and we spend our lives marrying the seeds within us so they may grow as one in unfamiliar soil. Some of us are flower gardens carrying no roots. We sow our own earth and water our own petals to grow our own footing. We are left to create beautiful orchards of our own out of the two humble seeds planted within our hearts. Melanin in my veins, this heart pumps stars. They said, what an unfortunate mother with a daughter so dark. To them my mother replied, I'm sorry the sun did not love you enough. If only she knew how beautiful her skin shone beneath the light of the sun, if only she saw the way she blossomed, a solitary lotus adrift upon the stillness of the water, she would understand that some eyes are murkier than even the muddiest of rivers. To be a daughter is to be a mistake, a stain on a window overlooking a beautiful sunrise. There is no dawn when you are the cloud blurring out the sun. Brown girl, lower your gaze. Didn't anyone ever tell you that modesty lies within the eye of the beholder? Brown girl, study harder, put the stories away. What man would want to marry a girl with a head so heavy with clouds? Brown girl, be quieter. Have you ever heard a flower bloom? Brown girl, stop giggling. Laughter is for shameless women. Brown girl, smile more. Haven't we given you everything you've ever needed? Brown girl, stay out of the sun. Keep your mouth shut. Head down. Fire smoldered. Brown girl, we pray you have a son. Brown girl is witchcraft. Brown girl is wicked. Brown girl holds the power to heal. Brown girl, you are smoke from an incense stick. Brown girl, you were always meant to disappear. You are not your roots. You are a flower grown from them. I was born outside of my mother's country. For this, I will always be a foreigner. They are afraid of our brown, of our light, the resilience of the earth that is our skin. They are afraid because next to us they know how foreign feels. I am not your exotic country. Knowing me does not make you a traveler. It is not what the immigrant leaves behind, but in the home that is no longer spoken of, a quiet heartbeat slowly continuing to fade. Culture has become a bouquet of foreign flowers decorating a dinner table. No story of our roots, only of how we were obtained. Forgetting is a privilege we have never been granted. My mother smiles through my poems, asks me if I wrote this for her, and I answer yes, always. And what about your father? Where are his words? She wants to know. In ashes, I tell her, like the memories of a home I've long ago written about and forgotten. These words are yours now. The thoughts you could never say, each flame you've ever swallowed manifested in me. My poetry is but a silence born of your own. My mother swallowed her voice, so when she spoke, others would listen. But when she cries, I hear her native tongue. When my mother cries, I know how long she has been silent. There are some poems that cannot be translated, for if they were, the beauty held within their native language would be forever lost. Poets write for those who will never read their work. It's a curse we carry around with us, like the worn-out luggage our mothers carried crossing the seas, separating them from the only ones who could ever understand. The ocean sighs for the moon and tidal waves, the trees twist and shed their leaves for their love of the wind, the whole world stitches itself in poems. We will never understand, and this is why we write. We write for the same reason we keep secrets. We write so that we may never forget the language we no longer speak. It's an hour before sunrise in India right now, and the chaiwalas have begun releasing spiced coils of smoke into the air to rouse the city. The fishermen have already disappeared into the fog of the sea. They drift in silence as they listen to the prayers echoing from the temples ashore. Around the river, the birds form the sickle moon of an elephant's tusk, chiming songs as sweet as the bells of a royal wedding. They say there is a special energy in the air. The hours before the sun rises, the breeze enters the body as a spark and carries us throughout the day. Right now it's late afternoon, and we're in bed, our palms against the sun as we filter slivers of dying light across the sheets. I'm told that in India, people do more before the sunrise than we do in an entire day, but I'm afraid that this morning everyone will have to wait because the sun hasn't left our room yet. We've got her trapped between our palms as sparks dance inside the space between your mouth and mine.